A world without mammals. The age before mammals ruled Earth. For most of modern history, humanity has looked at Earth and imagined it as a world made for mammals, a planet of forests filled with birds and primates, of wolves, whales, elephants, and eventually, humans. But Earth was not always this way. Long before mammals inherited the planet, before humanity existed, before even the first ancestors of humans had evolved, Earth belonged to something else, a far older dynasty, a world ruled not by intelligence but by scale, a prehistoric Earth where giant reptiles dominated nearly every corner of the planet. Creatures so enormous that modern animals seem small beside them. Predators with jaws powerful enough to crush bone like wood. Herds of giants stretching across endless plains. Winged hunters larger than aircraft drifting through ancient skies. And beneath the oceans, monsters unlike anything alive today. For over 150 million years, this world belonged to reptiles. And mammals, if they survived at all, lived only in the shadows, tiny, fragile, almost invisible. But to understand how mammals eventually inherited Earth, we must travel back to a much older world, a planet still recovering from one of the worst disasters in Earth's history. Around 252 million years ago, life on Earth nearly ended. Scientists call it the Permian-Triassic extinction, the Great Dying. Volcanic eruptions on a scale beyond human imagination tore open the planet for hundreds of thousands of years. The atmosphere changed, the oceans lost oxygen, temperatures rose catastrophically, forests collapsed, entire ecosystems vanished. By the end, around 90% of marine species disappeared. Most life on land died as well. Earth became a graveyard planet, and for millions of years afterward, the world remained almost empty. The forests were gone, the skies silent, the oceans unstable, the planet looked wounded. But extinction creates opportunity, and from the ruins of the old world, new creatures began evolving. Among them were the early ancestors of dinosaurs. At first, they were not rulers. They were small, fast, lightweight animals competing against countless other reptilian species struggling to survive in the harsh new world. Earth during the Triassic period looked very different from today. Almost all continents were fused together into a single gigantic supercontinent, Pangaea, a landmass so enormous that deserts stretched for thousands of kilometers across its interior. Temperatures could become brutally hot during the day and freezing at night. Seasonal storms swept across empty plains. Volcanic activity remained common. Life survived, but the planet was unstable, and yet evolution continued. Slowly, the first true dinosaurs appeared, small bipedal hunters sprinting across dry landscapes, early predators no larger than modern wolves. They were efficient, quick, adaptable, and over time, those advantages became deadly, because dinosaurs possessed something many rival reptiles lacked. Their bodies were built for movement, their legs stood directly beneath them rather than sprawling outward. This allowed them to run faster, travel farther, and use energy more efficiently. At first, few could have predicted what these animals would become, but evolution works patiently. Over millions of years, small changes accumulate, generation after generation, and eventually, the descendants of those early dinosaurs began spreading across the planet. Meanwhile, another group of creatures had also appeared, the earliest mammals. But these mammals were nothing like the large animals familiar today. They were tiny, shrew-like survivors hidden beneath roots, rocks, and burrows. Most were active only at night. During the age of dinosaurs, darkness became their refuge because daytime belonged to giants. To survive, early mammals evolved extraordinary senses: sensitive hearing, powerful smell, warm blood, fur for insulation during cold nights. They became masters of survival through caution rather than strength. While dinosaurs grew larger with every passing age, mammals stayed small. For millions of years, they lived beneath the feet of giants, and the giants kept growing. As the Triassic period continued, Earth slowly transformed. Forests expanded again, rivers returned, the climate became wetter in many regions. Life diversified across the recovering planet, and dinosaurs adapted to every environment they encountered. Some became hunters, others evolved into massive herbivores feeding on prehistoric vegetation. Different species spread across the supercontinent. The first true dinosaur ecosystems were forming. Then, around 201 million years ago, another catastrophe struck Earth. Massive volcanic eruptions erupted across Pangaea as the supercontinent began tearing apart. Lava flooded enormous regions of the planet. Carbon dioxide levels surged. Climate systems destabilized again. Many reptile groups vanished forever. But dinosaurs survived, and when the extinction ended, they inherited the Earth. For the next 135 million years, dinosaurs would dominate the planet more completely than mammals ever have. They spread across deserts, jungles, swamps, mountains, and polar forests. The age of dinosaurs had begun, and mammals remained hidden in darkness, small observers living beneath an empire of giants, waiting through millions of years of evolution for a future no creature on Earth could possibly foresee. Because one day, the rulers of Earth would fall, and the tiny mammals hiding in the shadows would inherit the world. Rise of the Dinosaur Empire. The age before mammals ruled Earth. After surviving 2 mass extinctions, the dinosaurs entered a world suddenly filled with opportunity. The great reptilian rivals that once competed against them were disappearing. Ancient predators vanished from the fossil record, entire bloodlines collapsed, and in the silence left behind, dinosaurs began expanding across the planet. What followed was one of the most successful evolutionary radiations in Earth's history. Over millions of years, dinosaurs transformed from small survivors into giants capable of dominating nearly every environment on Earth. Some evolved into fast-moving hunters, others became armored tanks, covered in spikes and plates, and some would grow so large that no land animal in modern history could compare. The Jurassic period had begun. Around 201 million years ago, Earth entered a warmer and wetter age. Forests spread across enormous regions of the planet. Towering conifers rose above dense fern-covered ground. Rivers carved through endless green valleys. The supercontinent Pangaea slowly continued breaking apart, creating new coastlines, new climates, and new ecosystems, and dinosaurs adapted to all of them. In this changing world, size became one of evolution's greatest weapons. Among the most extraordinary creatures to emerge were the sauropods, the long-necked giants. At first glance, they almost seem impossible. Animals longer than blue whales, heavier than modern tanks. Creatures capable of shaking the ground beneath them with every step. Some stretched over 30 meters in length. Their necks rose high into prehistoric forests, allowing them to feed on vegetation unreachable to smaller animals. Entire herds moved slowly across ancient floodplains, consuming enormous quantities of plant life every day. And yet, despite their massive size, these giants began life incredibly small. Most hatched from eggs no larger than footballs, tiny newborns entering a world filled with predators. Only a few survived long enough to become giants, but those that did became almost untouchable. Very few predators could challenge a fully grown sauropod. Even the great hunters of the Jurassic had limits, and those hunters were evolving too. The Jurassic world produced predators unlike anything Earth had seen before. Large theropods stalked prehistoric forests and river valleys. Powerful hind legs carried them across open terrain. Their jaws filled with serrated teeth designed for tearing flesh. Some hunted alone. Others may have hunted in groups. Scientists still debate how intelligent these predators truly were. But one thing is certain: they were among the most efficient killing machines evolution had ever created. And yet the dinosaurs did not dominate only the land. Above the forests, another dynasty ruled the skies: pterosaurs, flying reptiles that evolved powered flight long before birds appeared. Some were small enough to perch among trees. Others became truly enormous, wingspans stretching wider than fighter jets. These creatures soared above coastlines and oceans, riding ancient winds over Jurassic Earth. Many hunted fish from shallow seas. Others scavenged carcasses across open plains. For millions of years, they controlled the skies almost completely. And beneath the oceans, Earth hid monsters even more terrifying. The seas of the Jurassic were not ruled by fish or whales. Whales did not yet exist. Instead, marine reptiles dominated ancient oceans. Long-necked plesiosaurs drifted through dark waters. Fast-moving ichthyosaurs hunted like giant reptilian dolphins. Massive predators patrolled coastal seas searching for prey. The oceans became battlefields filled with creatures shaped by millions of years of evolutionary warfare. Every environment on Earth was changing, and dinosaurs continued diversifying. Some species evolved armor covered in spikes and bony plates. Others developed sharp claws for defense. Certain herbivores traveled in enormous herds for protection against predators. Complex ecosystems were forming across the planet, forests filled with giant herbivores, rivers hunted by predators, coastlines crowded with flying reptiles, and hidden beneath all of it, mammals still survived in darkness, tiny nocturnal creatures moving silently through undergrowth after sunset. Most dinosaurs likely ignored them completely. The age belonged to giants now, not to small animals hiding underground. For millions of years, mammals remained evolutionary outsiders. While dinosaurs expanded into colossal forms, mammals stayed small enough to fit in burrows. But survival itself became their advantage, because being small required less food, less territory, less visibility. While giant dinosaurs ruled openly beneath the sun, mammals mastered secrecy, and the dinosaur empire continued growing. As millions of years passed, Earth became increasingly alive. The Jurassic world thundered with movement. Giant footsteps shook the ground. Predators roared through forests. Flying reptiles crossed glowing skies. Ancient insects buzzed through humid jungles. Volcanoes burned across distant horizons. This was one of the most spectacular worlds Earth had ever created. A planet dominated by reptiles on a scale humanity can barely imagine. And yet, despite all their power, the dinosaur empire was not eternal, because evolution never stops. Continents continued drifting apart. Climates slowly changed. New plants appeared, new ecosystems formed, and somewhere within the shadows, beneath the feet of giants, small mammals continued evolving patiently. waiting through millions of years of survival, waiting for a future still impossibly far away, a future in which the rulers of Earth would disappear forever, and the hidden creatures of the night would finally emerge into the light.
The Golden Age of Giants. The age before mammals ruled Earth. By the beginning of the Cretaceous period, the dinosaurs had already ruled Earth for tens of millions of years. Generation after generation, they evolved into forms more diverse, more specialized, and more extraordinary than ever before. This was the true golden age of the dinosaurs, a world so rich with life that modern Earth would seem almost unfamiliar beside it. Forests stretched across entire continents, massive river systems carved through prehistoric wilderness, volcanic mountains towered over steaming jungles. The climate remained warmer than today. Even polar regions supported forests filled with life. There were no icy caps at the poles, no humans, no cities, only nature operating on a colossal scale, and the giants ruled everything. Across ancient plains, vast herds of herbivorous dinosaurs migrated in search of vegetation. Some species evolved long defensive tails capable of breaking bone with a single strike. Others developed horns, armor, and massive body size to survive against predators. And among them walked the largest land animals Earth has ever known: titanosaurs, the final descendants of the great sauropod bloodlines, creatures so immense that their hearts may have weighed hundreds of kilograms. Their necks rose above prehistoric forests like living towers. Each step carried several tons of muscle and bone across the landscape. When entire herds moved together, the ground itself trembled beneath them. These animals consumed enormous amounts of vegetation every day. Forests shaped their existence, and in return, the giants reshaped entire ecosystems around them. Trees collapsed beneath their movement, trails formed across ancient floodplains, seeds spread through their migration. The dinosaurs had become engineers of the prehistoric world itself. But where giant herbivores exist, predators follow. And during the Cretaceous, some of the most feared hunters in Earth's history emerged. Among them stood Tyrannosaurus rex, a predator that would one day become the symbol of the dinosaur age. Its skull alone stretched over a meter long. Rows of thick, serrated teeth crushed flesh and bone with terrifying force. Unlike earlier predators built mainly for slashing, Tyrannosaurus possessed one of the strongest bite forces ever evolved on land. A single bite could shatter bone instantly. Its senses were equally deadly. Forward-facing eyes gave depth perception. Its smell may have rivaled modern scavengers. Powerful legs carried its massive body across prehistoric terrain. For millions of years, apex predators like these stood at the top of Earth's food chains. And they were not alone. Across the world, different continents produced their own terrifying hunters. Large raptors hunted with curved killing claws. Fast-moving carnivores chased prey through forests and floodplains. Some predators evolved longer arms, others developed speed, others relied purely on brute force. Evolution experimented endlessly during this age. Every ecosystem became an arms race between predator and prey. And while dinosaurs dominated the land, Earth itself continued changing. The supercontinent Pangaea had long since broken apart. New oceans widened between drifting continents. Sea levels rose. Shallow inland seas flooded portions of the planet. Climate systems shifted constantly across millions of years. Isolation between continents allowed different dinosaur species to evolve independently. Entire prehistoric worlds emerged separated by oceans. But perhaps one of the most important changes during the Cretaceous had nothing to do with dinosaurs themselves, because the plants covering Earth were evolving too. For most of dinosaur history, the world had been dominated by ferns and conifers. But now, flowering plants began spreading rapidly across the planet. The first flowers appeared beneath dinosaur feet. Bright colors evolved. New forms of vegetation transformed ancient ecosystems, and insects adapted alongside them. Pollinating species spread between flowers. Forests became more complex. Food chains diversified. The Earth was becoming increasingly alive. By now, the dinosaur empire had lasted longer than humanity's entire existence by an unimaginable margin. Civilization today measures history in thousands of years. Dinosaurs ruled for over 150 million. Their dominance seemed eternal. No rival species threatened them. They controlled land, sea, and sky. And mammals still remained small, hidden, insignificant beside the giants. Most mammals during this time lived quiet lives beneath roots and vegetation. They hunted insects, ate seeds, avoided predators. Some climbed trees, others burrowed underground. Very few grew larger than small household pets. If a human observer could travel into the Cretaceous world, they might never imagine mammals would someday inherit the Earth. Nothing about the planet suggested the dinosaur empire could ever fall. The ecosystems were stable, the giants successful, life abundant beyond imagination. And yet, Earth has never promised permanence to any ruler. Not to trilobites, not to giant amphibians, not even to dinosaurs. Because hidden beyond Earth, far out in the darkness of the solar system, a force was already moving toward the planet. An object left over from the birth of worlds. Silent, invisible, traveling through space for millions of years. And when it finally arrived, it would destroy the greatest empire Earth had ever known. The Age of Giants was approaching its end. Even though no creature alive could yet see it coming,
Mammals in the shadows. The age before mammals ruled Earth, while giant dinosaurs ruled the planet beneath the sun. Another story was unfolding quietly in darkness, a story almost invisible within the fossil record. Because during the Age of Giants, mammals were not rulers, they were survivors. Tiny creatures hidden beneath forests, roots, and fallen vegetation. Most lived lives so small and secretive that dinosaurs likely never noticed them at all. And yet, within these fragile animals, the future of Earth was already evolving. For millions of years, mammals existed at the edge of extinction. The dinosaur empire dominated nearly every major ecosystem. Large herbivores controlled the forests and plains, predators hunted openly across river valleys and jungles, flying reptiles filled the skies, even the oceans belonged to reptilian giants. There seemed to be no place left for mammals to rise, so evolution pushed them somewhere else, into the night. Scientists believe many early mammals became nocturnal during the dinosaur age. Darkness offered protection. Most giant predators relied heavily on vision during daylight hours. But mammals evolved new advantages suited for survival after sunset. Large, sensitive eyes adapted to low light. Hearing became sharper. the sense of smell grew increasingly powerful. Some species developed whiskers capable of detecting tiny environmental changes through touch, and unlike reptiles, mammals possessed warm blood. This changed everything. Cold-blooded animals depend heavily on external temperatures, but mammals generated heat internally. Even during cold nights, they remained active. Fur insulated their small bodies against changing temperatures. Their metabolism allowed greater endurance. Their brains required more energy, but also became more complex. Quietly, while dinosaurs dominated through size and strength, mammals were evolving adaptability, and adaptability would eventually become one of evolution's greatest weapons. Most early mammals were still incredibly small. Many resembled modern shrews, rodents, or tiny climbing animals. Some hunted insects beneath dense vegetation. Others searched forests for seeds and fruit. Many survived inside underground burrows where larger predators could not reach them. The prehistoric world, viewed from their perspective, looked terrifying. Every vibration in the ground could signal danger. A single misplaced movement could attract predators dozens of times larger than themselves. To survive, they became cautious, fast, intelligent, and perhaps most importantly, they cared for their young in ways many reptiles did not. Mammalian reproduction was different. Instead of producing enormous numbers of offspring and abandoning them, mammals invested heavily in fewer young. Parental care increased survival rates. The bond between parent and offspring strengthened learning and behavior. Over time, this may have contributed to more advanced social and neurological development, and deep within their skulls, mammalian brains continued evolving. Tiny mammals hiding beneath the feet of giants were developing traits that would someday dominate the planet. Better memory, improved learning, more flexible behavior, traits far less visible than claws or teeth, but ultimately far more powerful. Meanwhile, the world above remained ruled by dinosaurs. The Cretaceous Earth thundered with giant footsteps. Massive herbivores migrated across ancient continents. Predators hunted beneath towering forests. The skies filled with flying reptiles drifting over rivers and coastlines for millions of years. This balance endured. Dinosaurs remained the visible rulers of Earth. Mammals remained hidden beneath them, and perhaps that hidden existence saved them. Because small size offered unexpected advantages, mammals required less food, less territory, less visibility. They could hide during disasters, shelter underground, survive on seeds, insects, roots, and whatever food remained available. Dinosaurs dominated stable ecosystems brilliantly. But mammals became specialists in surviving instability. Evolution had unknowingly prepared them for catastrophe, and catastrophe was approaching, far beyond Earth. An asteroid continued drifting silently through space, a mountain-sized object moving toward the inner solar system, unnoticed by every creature alive. The dinosaurs had no warning, the mammals had no understanding. Life on Earth continued normally beneath ancient skies, forests swayed in warm winds, predators hunted, herds migrated, tiny mammals searched for food beneath moonlight. No species knew that the greatest disaster since the age of the Great Dying was now inevitable. And when it arrived, the giant rulers of Earth would face a challenge even evolution could not overcome. But the small creatures hidden underground, the mammals living in darkness for millions of years, would endure. Because survival does not always belong to the strongest. Sometimes it belongs to the creatures prepared for the world after disaster. And the age of giants was almost over. The day the sky burned, the age before mammals ruled Earth. For over 150 million years, the dinosaurs ruled Earth. They survived volcanic catastrophes, changing climates, drifting continents, rising seas, ice-free polar worlds. Generation after generation, their empire endured. To any creature alive during the late Cretaceous, their dominance must have seemed eternal. Nothing on Earth appeared capable of ending them. But the danger was not coming from Earth. It was coming from space, far beyond the orbit of Mars. A giant asteroid drifted silently through the darkness of the solar system. A fragment left over from the violent birth of planets billions of years earlier. For millions of years, it traveled unnoticed through empty space. Then, eventually, its path crossed Earth's orbit. The object was enormous, around 12 kilometers wide, large enough to destroy civilizations, large enough to alter the future of life itself. And 66 million years ago, it struck the Earth. The asteroid entered the atmosphere, traveling faster than a rifle bullet. The sky ignited around it. Within seconds, the object became brighter than the sun itself. Animals across an entire hemisphere may have looked upward and seen a second sun appearing in the sky. Then came the impact. The asteroid slammed into shallow seas near what is now the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. The explosion released more energy than billions of nuclear bombs combined. Rock vaporized instantly. The ground melted. A crater nearly 200 kilometers wide tore open across Earth's surface. Everything near the impact zone died immediately. Forests vanished in seconds. Oceans exploded upward into the atmosphere. Shockwaves raced outward faster than sound. The Earth itself shook violently. Earthquakes stronger than anything in modern human history spread across the planet. Entire coastlines collapsed. And then came the fire. Debris blasted into space during the impact began falling back through the atmosphere as trillions of glowing fragments rained down across Earth. The skies heated catastrophically. Forests ignited. Grasslands burned. Entire continents caught fire. The world became an oven. Animals unable to shelter underground or underwater died rapidly. For the dinosaurs, the catastrophe was only beginning. Massive tsunamis spread across ancient oceans. Walls of water crashed into distant coastlines thousands of kilometers away from the impact site. Ash and dust filled the atmosphere. Sunlight began disappearing, and slowly, the planet started changing. The fires consumed forests across the globe. Smoke covered the skies. Temperatures collapsed. Photosynthesis nearly stopped. Plants began dying, and when plants died, entire food chains collapsed with them. The great herbivorous dinosaurs faced starvation first. For animals requiring enormous amounts of vegetation every day, survival became impossible. The forests that once fed giants were vanishing. One by one, the giant herbivores disappeared, and without prey, the predators followed. Tyrannosaurs, raptors, the colossal rulers of prehistoric Earth, all began dying alongside the ecosystems they depended upon. For millions of years, size had been their greatest strength. Now it became their weakness. Large animals require enormous energy to survive. Enormous food supplies, stable ecosystems, but after the asteroid impact, Earth was no longer stable. The giant rulers of the planet could not adapt fast enough. Within a relatively short geological period, the age of dinosaurs ended. Not every dinosaur vanished completely. A small group survived, birds, the final living descendants of the dinosaur empire, but the non-avian dinosaurs, the great giants of the Mesozoic world, disappeared forever. And they were not alone. Around 75% of all species on Earth vanished during the extinction. Marine reptiles disappeared from the oceans. Flying reptiles vanished from the skies. Entire evolutionary bloodlines ended permanently. Earth entered another mass extinction, another reshaping of life itself. The world after the impact became quiet. Empty forests stretched beneath darkened skies. The giant footsteps that once shook the earth were gone. The roaring predators disappeared. The age of reptiles had collapsed. And yet, deep underground, inside burrows hidden beneath the ruined world, some creatures survived. Tiny mammals, the same small nocturnal animals that had spent millions of years living in darkness beneath the feet of giants. Their size helped them survive. They required less food, could shelter underground, could eat seeds, roots, insects, and scraps left behind in devastated ecosystems. While giant dinosaurs starved, small mammals endured. The catastrophe that destroyed the rulers of Earth became an opportunity for the survivors hidden in the shadows. Because extinction does not end evolution, it changes its direction, and after the asteroid impact, for the first time in over 150 million years, the world no longer belonged to dinosaurs. The age of giants was over. A new age was about to begin.